All right, welcome to another episode of Closers or Losers. We don't even have the logo back there. We're so quick, we had to jump on here. So you know what to do. So my name is Jeremy Miner. I'm the chairman and host, I guess, of Closers or Losers. We'll go over what that means. This is our co-host, Matt, the man Ryder. He's got 17 names, aliases that he goes by, depending on what country he's in for the week. I'm just joking.
I do.
He's the
My
CEO.
Kaiser Sose.
He's the CEO of Seventh Level. So today we've got an interesting subject we wanted to talk to you about. So we have a lot of comments. A lot of you guys are like, hey, what do you do when you have trials and tribulations as a sales professional? Like, what do you do when you go through ups and downs? What do you go through when everything seems to be going against you, especially when you're early in sales and maybe you just haven't learned the right skills yet to be able to sell a lot of your products and services? So today we want to talk about just how to get through that, how to get through those trials, how to get through the tribulations that are going to come no matter what you do. Even if you're the best salesperson on planet Earth, you're going to have trials, you're going to have situations you go through that you might not know how to handle. A lot of people ask us, so Matt, we hire a lot of salespeople in our done for you services as well. When people come to you, do they ever ask you like, man, how did you get through the bad patches? Like, what did you do? What do you say?
Yeah, I did some training on how to stay in the saddle. And I think the main thing that I found was just to have a good process that you trusted and that you understood your numbers to a level where like you didn't get frustrated by things. So 10% of people are always going to say no. Yeah. 10% of people are always going to say yes. There's 80% of people in the middle. Yeah. So like if you're a guy who closes at 30%, that's not great, but it's like if that's your number, that's your number, right? And so if you get 5 no's in a row, don't be frustrated because you might get 5 yeses in a row and then that'll be 50%. So it's like tracking everything is important and looking at things in a broader context and giving yourself a break, I think is an important part of being a salesperson.
Well, and it depends on what space you're in. Like the space that you came in from, the high ticket coaching industry, 30% is okay. But with the skills we teach those people, a lot of them are selling 60, 70, 80% plus. But let's say if you're doing door-to-door sales, if you're selling to 3 out of every 10 homes, you're probably the number one salesperson in your entire office. So it depends on kind of what industry. And so I know we have a lot of people that tune in from different industries, want to specify what we're talking about. One thing's early on, like when you first got into sales, several years ago, what type of trials, what type of things did you go through as a sales professional before you really learned how to sell, when you're just kind of winging it?
Yeah, I think for me, it was, I did a lot of dialing. And so it was just the sheer grind of having to do everything, the same thing over and over again every single day. And then I didn't really have a process. So I was just trying to figure everything out on the fly. And I was running by the seat of my pants, and I was sort of day to day trying to figure out how I could do a little bit better than I did the day before, but I didn't have anything. And also I had a fairly combative selling style, which then led to different issues. And I had like the headaches and I felt tired and I felt like I was limited in how much I could sell because I was selling in a way that was quite like, as a boxing match, as it were.
Yeah. Where did that come from though? I mean, you're not born out of your mother's womb having a combative way of selling. Like who taught you that? Where did you learn that type of selling?
I learned it from a mentor of mine. Who is also became like a business partner. And he learned from another guy, an Australian sales trainer. His name is Gulliver, actually.
Gulliver, okay.
Yeah, Gulliver, yeah.
Okay.
Calls himself Thor the Sales Warlord.
Thor the Sales Warlord. And now that gives away nothing there for sure.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. He's very good at selling. It's a totally different style. Yeah. Obviously, hasn't been as successful as what you have, but it's different. It's that very combative logic trap, buy or die. Yeah. So it's they will buy or they will hang up. There, those you will not hang up and you will not stop until they buy or they hang up. I think you're not from memory. You're not allowed to do follow-ups. So that's how I was taught how to sell. That's how I was taught how to sell. Some of his stuff is really cool. I like some of his modeling.
Yeah, that's more of
definitely B2C.
never even work remotely.
Actually, I think specific for business owners who are the face of the company selling to people. That's what I think. Because you can be super authoritative because you're the guy on camera and you can slap people around and beat them up a fair bit and get away with it more than what you normally would. But the moment you're the guy who's coming in as the sales guy, and you're not the person on camera and you try and sell that way, you just end up getting lambasted. I mean, you can do it, but it's rough.
So you went through this period, you're making some sales, you're getting beat up every day. Like you mentioned, you're in the boxing ring every night. You start to get wore out. You don't know what's going on. How did you keep grinding day in, day out and keep going? What did you do? You listen to a lot of Tony Robbins?
No, I'm not a huge self-development guy. So I just I don't know, man. I don't mind grinding. I have a pretty good work ethic. So I can kind of do that stuff. But it got pretty close to where I was like, do I want to do this even though I was making good money? That's when I reached out to you. And I think I said in our sales call, I was like, if I keep selling like this, I've got like 6 months left and then I'm going to go do something different.
I can't remember what questions I asked you to get you to say that to yourself, but I remember that.
I actually am trying to get Beth to find our sales call.
That would be nice. I don't know if we recorded that. That was a long time ago.
But I still have the messages because you sold me basically half of her messenger.
Yeah.
It was the strangest thing if everyone wants to break, it was the strangest thing because I'd never been sold in that way before. Obviously, I hadn't learned much about NEPQ. The only sales calls I'd ever done, I hadn't been sold that many times, to be honest. I'd done a lot of selling. But it was like, I was almost frustrated that I wasn't allowed to buy earlier. Like, I was like, because you kept you kept this amount of space. It was very effective. It made me really, really want it. And I know it was on purpose. By the time I got on the call, I was so relieved that there was a solution. Thank God. Thank God this guy can fix it. He can fix all these problems. Because I now understand the impact of my decision.
Yeah, because the questions I asked you, I mean, you obviously all know this now. I mean, you're like the number one person that's ever gone through the training now. You're the CEO of the company. So you know the ins and outs, you know everything now. But back in the day, you didn't. But the questions I asked you caused you to internalize the problems that you had, the problems you didn't even know you had before we got on the call that I helped you find, and the root cause of them and how it's affecting you. And then basically, here's where you're at, your current situation, your current state. Then you're telling yourself, here's where I want to be, my objective state. What was the gap? All of these problems that you just found out you had from my questions. And then that gap was so large that it created massive urgency that you felt like I have to solve this because human beings want to run away from that pain. And then I yanked it out when I asked you the consequence question, like, what are you going to do if you don't do anything about this? Something like that. I don't remember the exact question. And then that caused you to build even more urgency and more, we separated more, like I'm ripping it away from you. And that caused you to pull me in more.
No.
And then by the end, I didn't need to get a down payment or anything like that. I just said,
just told me your assistant will send me an invoice. And to me, that was baffling. And there was no way I wasn't going to pay that. And I can because I was always taught, you have to get the payment on the phone. You have to. And I think it's a good habit for the coaching industry to get into, to take the payment on the phone. Don't get me wrong. I think it shortens sales cycles. Mm-hmm. But I really think if you do it the right way, it's incredible how much buy-in that person gets. And I was selling to trades when I first started.
Yeah.
Which is a really tough niche because they're either crazy broke or crazy busy.
Yeah.
There's nothing in between. And they work weird hours. It's really hard to get them on the phone. So you'll be talking to them on site and you know what I mean? They're not tech savvy and they have no idea about their numbers. So it's a really interesting niche to sell. It's quite difficult. I think it was really good because I think selling hard things is really good for you.
I agree.
I think you need to look at it as a challenge. Yeah. I think a lot of the industry, especially the industry that I focus on, the more coaching and consulting stuff is the guys sell for a big name and it's super easy and they go and they can't sell for anybody else, which is you want to start at the bottom, man. You want to start selling the no-name dude, with questionable marketing skills and then kind of work your way up. But I started off with that. And then it was funny, I used to get deposits off people and 90% of those deposits would not fulminate into anything.
Right. So it's just a waste of time.
I just get $500 off someone. I was like, it's just winning a battle, right? I won,
If you got the deposit.
Yeah. But then like once I started using more NEPQ and I started selling people in different ways, I started being able to like, cause some of these guys just didn't have the cash. So what I would do is they were sold, they were in, and we were just looking for ways. And I had no funding options.
Yeah.
Right. There was I had none. So I didn't even know there was funding because I was so new to the industry.
Right.
So I would just pipeline these people. And after like, I was making around 3 to 4 sales a week from new leads. And then my pipeline after about 3 months of using an EPQ kicked in. And then I was making 2 sales every week from old leads.
Yeah.
So I was making 6 sales a week. 1 week I sold 15. This is into a 30K program. I broke the business. They couldn't onboard anybody for 4 weeks because they were 4 weeks out there onboarding. So I just kept selling and the onboarding just kept getting blown out. And I was like, you guys are going to have to fix this. Like, so I started onboarding people. I had to learn how to do that. But that was $2,000 a sale. So I was averaging $12,000 a week at that point. And the nearest guy was averaging $3,000 a week.
So he was making 10 to 12,000 a month. You were making 45 to 50 grand a month, selling the exact same thing.
Same lead volume. Yeah. And half of my sales were sales that he didn't close.
Yeah. And
so I would go through his list and I would then re-engage all the people. And it wasn't, a lot of it was because like, the skills, but I think also it was about, because my sales calls were only 45 minutes and his sales calls were 90 to 2 hours. I was able to stack so many more sales calls.
Yeah.
I was far more flippant with who I let through.
Yeah.
So I would give myself lots of opportunity because one of my things is like, even if they don't have the money now, if I'm lacking opportunity and they can benefit from the program, I'll put them into a sales process as long as I've got the time. Yeah. And then I'll just work on that person for the next 3, 6, 12 months and I'll get the sale eventually.
Well, 100%. When you learn NEPQ, when you get them to persuade themselves, they internally persuade themselves. So they chase you around, right? They're always around. They're not trying to avoid you. They're the ones pulling you and coming to you. Just like, when I did that call with you, I think that was the first sales call I'd done in like 3 years. I was like freaking rusty, but it all comes back. It's like riding a bike as a kid, right? And, I didn't remember to get your funds there on the car. I'm like, oh yeah, my assistant will send it out to you. And then you paid 20 minutes later. But it's because you internally persuaded yourself that you knew you had to make the change from the questions I asked you, caused you to do that. That's what we teach, in our Facebook group, Sales Revolution, in our NEPQ, advanced training programs that our clients go through. One thing that I want to talk about is, like Matt's talking about, once you learn the right skills, trials and tribulations and all that kind of stuff, most of it goes out the window. Now, I'm not saying that maybe the company you work for like has a bad month, and it doesn't matter what you're selling. Maybe you're selling B2B complex selling environment, or you're selling B2C or whatever. And maybe the company has a month where your leads go way down. So instead of just complaining and doing nothing, what do? You make opportunity. You learn how to cold call. You learn the right skills, which we teach you. So you learn how to create your own leads. I know that you were big on that. Don't complain about not getting leads. Go out and create your own opportunities and leads. You have to go out there and find that business. So you're going to have certain things like that might be out of your control, but it's how you react to those things that will separate you. So once you learn the right skills, you just have so much more control compared to you not understanding the skills that work with human behavior. If you're still in the boxing match, like Matt was talking about, punching and, pushing and, assuming the sale and try to manipulate them into buying something from you, then you're going to struggle a lot. You're going to have lots of ups and downs.
It's funny, like, especially once you figure out how to sell, once you figure out how to sell in different environments. Like last night, I sold a $200,000 speaking engagement for Ryan, and I made them pitch me. Yeah. So I managed to kind of like, they came in and we managed to get them into such a frenzy because they said they wanted to be the number one brokers in Egypt. And then we managed to figure out why they wanted to bring Ryan out. And then from there, we went through like, well, so this is about an alignment because they're new. They want to align with big developers. That's going to create a tremendous amount of business for them moving forward. Yeah. And so at the end of that, I was like, well, like what happens if you don't? And they basically said, well, can you picture someone in water who doesn't know how to swim? I was like, so you're going to be drowning? They go, yes. And I go, well, are you willing to settle for that? No. I go, okay, well, this is an outside of the box thing. I really want you to come to me with what you think this is worth, and they were like, well, we don't really have a budget. And I said, well, I need to, like, are you guys serious about this? Yes. Is this as important to you? Yes. Okay. Why? Okay, cool. I need a mid 6-figure budget. Are you guys able to do that? Yes, we are. Okay, I want you to send me a proposal. Right. So then they started writing, okay, what do you want in the proposal? What do you guys want in the proposal? They're writing it down. They're now sending us a proposal so we can sell them. When you really learn how to sell, and it was like, I got off the call and I was like, what did we just do? Like, I was like, it's like, what? And then I got 20 minutes later and I sold a dude into our placement. And that took 22 minutes, $12,000 paid over the phone.
Easy. Well, and Matt's talking about one of our clients that we do sales for called Ryan Serhant. If you guys have ever seen $1 Million List in New York on Bravo, it's a very popular show. He's the #1 real estate brokerage firm in New York City. Does what?
He's actually the #1 individual broker in the world.
Is he really? There's a guy out in LA that says he's the #1 in the world. So I didn't know who was. But anyways, who?
Yeah, no, I think there's a difference between volume and contract value.
That's true. There's a lot. Yeah.
There's a guy in Texas who's the #1 volume guy in the world. Yeah. And like I saw his numbers and it was insane. He's one guy with no team.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like 55 years old and he sells an average of 3 houses a day.
That's he's got to have some type of team, but I know.
No, he doesn't. He does new development. It's the weirdest thing. Honestly, man, like I even asked Ryan about him and he's like, yeah, he's the dude. He just runs solo and he sells like $200,000 units and he just sells a
bunch of volume. Brian's selling $30 million apartments in Brooklyn, right?
$133 million. The house he closed.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we do all of his sales for his social media and branding training for real estate agents. So what Matt's is talking about is selling his speaking engagements, which we do as well.
So I sell the speaking engagements. We sold one and we actually, this is a great story, but if you use adversary, this is a great story for this. And this will be, I actually got to talk to Ryan in about 5 minutes, but we saw someone from Mauritius came to us and said, listen, we want to bring Ryan out. I was like, cool. Now Mauritius is like a 20-hour flight from New York. Yeah. So they offered him $100,000 for the day. He goes, no, that's not worth my time because of the flights. So, but I closed the deal and then I closed Ryan on it. And Ryan goes, okay, cool. But you have to find more deals. Like otherwise, I'm not going there for the one. $100,000 for the day. He goes, it's not worth it because it's 3 days. Yeah. I need at least $80,000 a day. Yeah. That I'm away from New York. I was like, okay, that's fair enough. So we literally cold called Dubai. We cold called South Africa. We sent out a bunch of cold emails and a bunch of other stuff like that. Anyway, like just through like our sales skills, we managed to lock up around $350,000 worth of speaking gigs over like a 5-day period in a week.
Yeah.
And we came back to him and we're like, okay, world tour's done. He's like, what? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, it's all done. You good to go? Yeah, sweet. Yeah, congratulations.
I'm assuming in the next 6 months, we're going to be training his brokers how to sell a lot more real estate. Because when I want
to be honest, anyway, I talked to your phone. There's a large development group in Dubai and they want training and there's 400 of them. So
yeah, for sure. Because if he's doing $2 billion a year in sales with what we train them, that'll turn into $8 billion a year pretty easily. Because when I watch the show, love the show, but man, sales skills, crazy. Before we end the show, I want to go over something I thought that was very interesting. So I was out, as you know, Matt, Brad Lee had me on his podcast, Dropping Bombs, last week out in Vegas in the studio. It's the second time I've been on in the last year and a half or so. And he had me fly out, did all this things. Really awesome experience. Love their office out there. We have our virtual training platform on their platform as well. So we're one of Brad's clients. It's a top 10 podcast in the world. And I was talking to Brad. He's been in business since 1999. I had no idea. I was in his office. I was like, tell me the trials you went through, like getting this business up, because this is going to be their first year. They do $100 million in a year. Never have done that before. Okay. And I said, dude,
what are they doing?
I said, what happened? I know, just small numbers.
Grow up, Brad.
But I said, what happened? You've been in business 21 years. What was it like your first 5 years? Because we've been around 7 Level for 3 years. And he's like, dude, the 4th year, I pretty much almost closed down the business. I had to go back into work. Like he sold cars previous to that, just a car salesman. He's like, I knew I could make a couple $100,000 a year as a car salesman. I had to go back to work to pay my 2 employees their salaries. I did that for 1 year. And my head employee came to me, which is now his business partner, CTO Jason, that you're about to meet with, and basically said, hey, Brad, we're going to shut this down if you don't come back. So Brad had to quit that job where he was making money, 5 years into it, almost went completely out of business after 5 years. Talk about sticking it out and overcoming adversity. And so then, the next year, he said up until that point, the most they had ever made in a month, they were averaging about $1,500 to $2,000 a month in revenue. Oof. In the first 5 years. That's years crazy. To get to that. Okay. Yeah. And now look how big and successful the company is. Tony Robbins is on his platform. A lot of, Damon John, Shark Tank, a lot of the big people that you see. I know Ryan Surratt wants to get hit on his platform and stuff. We're on their platform.
Yeah, I've got that meeting at 4 a.m.
20 years later, before he hit $100 million in a year. That is perseverance. That's overcoming obstacles and trials and tribulations. And even from last year to this year, more than doubled their sales, doubled their income. And now Brad is one of our clients. We're going to be hiring salespeople to sell his products and services to more companies as well. So I thought that was an interesting story about just sticking it out and learning the right skills to eventually become successful.
Yeah, I've always been told you don't really understand your business until 5 to 6 years in.
Yeah.
You're really kind of feeling it out. So, Sales Sniper is only 2 years old. 7th Level is only 3 years old. Combine the two, because we're both on two. So combined, we're doing about, $700,000 a month, something like that. So sure. I think, to be honest, we're in a pretty good spot for how long we've been going.
After I met with Brad, I'm like, wow, we're doing way better than Brad was.
Yeah, I keep telling you, I'm like, mate, these things take time.
I'm like, why are we not at $10 million a month? What is going on?
He always telling me, why are you? I'm like, well, anyway, that's my job. That's my job. All right, man, I gotta go. I gotta meet with Sir Ham, but thanks for your time.
All right, guys, tell Ron I said hi. All right, thanks for being on Sales Revolution. We'll see you next week. Make sure if you've not joined our Facebook group yet, Sales Revolution, we'll put a link here, Sales Revolution. You'll fill out a quick survey of what you sell, what industry you're in, what you need help in. Join, and we'll give you a free training on objection prevention, how to prevent objections from happening right when you join. Matt, thanks. Talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Now, if you're serious about joining the top 1%, I mean the top 1%, and you want to experience more training content just like this, click the links right over there. Right over there, they're exactly what you need to see next. You see, I release new episodes featuring top salespeople and sales authorities, multiple six-figure, high six-figure, even seven-figure earners. And if you're new here, do yourself a favor and smash that subscribe button right below, and join our new Facebook group, Sales Revolution. You see, it's free, and there's a link in the description below just for you. We put it there for you. Finally, I make posts on Facebook and Instagram each and every day with more tips and training, so be sure and follow me and turn on your notifications. So make a comment in the first 7 minutes to any of my latest posts, share this episode, and there's a very real chance that you're gonna win some killer prizes. And here's the thing, don't sit on the sidelines. Don't be like everyone else. Get into the game. Join the Sales Revolution. Stay active, get involved, learn the right skills, and we will show you how to take your life and income to a level that most only dream about.